Hello everyone, welcome. In this video, we learn what relays are, how they work, and where they are used in real life, especially in automotive electrical system. So I have a number of relays I would like to show to you. We have this one, we have this one. These are relay, these are relays. We have this one, we also have this one, and also this one. So we have a number of them. Now, basically, what I would like us to understand is now what is a relay? We have a number of them, but what is a relay? Now, relay is an electronically controlled or operated switch. It uses an electromagnet to operate or close contacts, allowing a small current to control a larger current. Now, we have a number of parts in a relay. If you look, this is what I mean by a relay. We have this one, this is a relay, this is also a relay, but the relay itself has a number of parts that we need to understand. If you look at this parts keenly, we have this one. This part is called the coil. This is our coil. This is a coil. We have this the outer side curve. We have this between this one and this one. There's an insulation. We have this black part. There's an insulation. Now this one is what we call the armature. This outer part is what we call the armature. The armature is also attached to some spring. There's this part we call the spring. There's a spring behind here. I believe it's visible. Now this spring extends. There are 2 points here. We have this point which is attached to the spring, and we have this other point. These points are what we call the contacts. So basically, an armature, a coil, spring, and the contacts forms what we call the relay. Now, if we have them, these are what we call the relays. These are what we call the relays. But they have a number of pins. We have this one, we have this one, and we have this one. Now, this is also the same as what I've been explaining. This outer cover is what we call the armature. This is what we call the coil. Now, inside the coil, we have a core. Then we have these ones as the points. This part has been used as a spring. You can see it is returning it back to the point. Now, if you look at them keenly, if you look, we have a number of pins, and these pins are directly connected to these parts up here. Now, this first point is connected to this, what we call the contacts. There's this contact. We have two. This one is attached to the armature. This one is not attached. So this one which is attached is what we call the normally closed. This one is the normally open. Now this normally open point is linked to this part. This part which is now directly attached to the armature. This part is directly attached to the armature. Then now we have this part and this part. These two, we call them the coil terminals. Coil terminals. These two coil terminals are used to supply current to the coil so that it gets energized to attract this armature to move from one contact to the other. To move from one contact to the other. So basically, this is now an highlight or a relay on how the armature works to make us have the relay itself in operation. Now, I've stated and understood. Now, if you look at this, we understand the only bigger issue that makes us to need relays is that we use a smaller current to switch a bigger current. Now, this smaller current is supplied to these coil terminals. These coil terminals to enable the armature to energize so that the current on the first point, which is directly connected to the armature, is transferred to this other end, which is given a space, which is an open to the armature contact. So when we get the current supplied through these two terminals, this coil energizes to enable us have some magnetism spark, which will now push this to this end. When this is pushed, now we understand this one is now directly transferred to this one. And now that is how our coil works. Now we have different types of relays that are used in the automotive systems. We have the SPST, we have the SPDT, we have the DPDT. Now, when I talk of the abbreviation, SPST simply means the single point single throw, or the single point single throw is this is a single point single throw. Why am I saying that? The single point, in other words, the single point single throw is a 4-pin relay. If you count these pins, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are single point single throw relay. When we have the 5 pins, this is a single point double throw relay. What does it mean? I'm going to explain that through a drawing. But before I go to that drawing, I would like us to understand this. I believe this is very clear. My handwritings are not that bad. So if you look, now this is a relay, basic relay for pin wiring, the single point single throw connection. We have a number of pins. We start with the first pin, which is pin 85. Pin 85 is a coil ground connected to the ground or the negative part of the connection. Then we have pin 86. The 86 is the coil power. It is connected to the coil. 85 and 86 are connected to the coil. Mark the word coil. But one is ground of the coil, another one is connected to a switch or a circuit control, such as the ignition. Circuit control such as the ignition, we can use the ECU, we can use the control panels to give it a signal that now, from this point, we have to energize the coil, we have to produce some magnetic field so that the armature can be transferred from the normally closed point to the normally open point. Now we have pin 30, which is a common connection to the battery, which is now supplying the higher current. This one is supplying the higher current from the battery to the load itself. Now, pin 87 is connected but with a normally open point. 87 connects pin 30 with a normal open point. That's why we call it is a normally open. Connects the device or load. This is now what we use to connect direct to the load or to the other components. I think I have this one here. If you look at this one, this is a relay which has some connection. We have a number of points. This one is connected to, this is pin 30, can see, and I've said pin 30 is directly connected to the battery or power source. Then we have pin 85. This is connected to the ground of the coil, negative part of the coil. We have pin 86. It is here. We have 86, which is now the positive connection of the coil. Then we have finally 87, which is now delivering the high current to the load itself. Now I want us to get to the diagram and understand. I want us to use this diagram to understand the single throw, single point relay, and the now I believe my diagram is very clear. Now, if you look, this is a single point, single throw relay. Single point, single throw relay, or in other words, we can call it a 4-pin relay. Now, if the pin 30, which is direct connected from the battery, feeds the load, which is connected on 87, there is an open point. This is the normal